Just 2 days after the wedding, my son-in-law showed up at my door with the notary. We've just sold this house. You're moving into a nice retirement home. His smug smile promised a swift victory over the old man, but I calmly replied, "Let's stop by the police station first. They're very interested in what I've sent them about you." Those words changed everything. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below, telling us what time it is where you are. Arthur, Sarah, and I need our own place to properly start our family. Gregory leaned forward, his wine glass catching the dim light of the restaurant. Your house would be perfect for a young couple. His words hit me like ice-cold water. I set down my fork. The wedding cake, still sweet on my tongue, turned bitter. We'd celebrated their marriage for 2 whole days, just 2 days ago, and now this? Gregory, this is my home, I said, my voice steady, though my hands gripped the edge of the table. I built it with my own hands 20 years ago. Sarah shifted uneasily between us. Her wedding ring caught the candlelight. The intimate booth at the Golden Stag suddenly felt suffocating. Other diners laughed at nearby tables, oblivious to the bomb exploding right at ours. But you're just one person in such a big house, Gregory pressed on, his smile never faltering. It's not practical. And at your age, wouldn't you prefer something more manageable? At my age, I was 68, not ancient, but Gregory spoke as if I already had 1 foot in the grave. My champagne flute trembled in my grip. We'd take such good care of it, he continued, reaching to touch Sarah's hand. Just imagine your grandchildren will one day play in these rooms. Sarah's eyes darted between us. Dad, Gregory, please don't argue. It's supposed to be a happy day. Happy? I straightened in my seat. I wrote a check for $15,000 to cover your wedding. The flowers from the ceremony are still wilting in the center of this table, petals brown at the edges. Gregory, I said firmly, at my age, I'm still strong enough to make decisions about my own property. You can stay a few days while you find your own place. His confident expression flickered, just for a moment, something cold, flashing behind his eyes, before the charming mask slid back into place. Of course, Arthur, I completely understand, he said, though his tone had sharpened. It's just that rental prices these days, and with Sarah's teacher's salary. We'll manage, sweetheart. Sarah squeezed his hand, but I heard the worry in her voice. Money had always been tight for her. Gregory's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I'd hoped we could discuss this as a family. After all, what's the point of holding on to such a valuable asset if it could benefit us all? Asset, not my home, not the place where I'd carried my wife over the threshold, where Sarah took her first steps, where Margaret Bell spent her final days. Just an asset. The jazz playing in the background now felt mocking. Couples at other tables shared intimate conversations while mine was falling apart in real time. A waiter glided past, refilling water glasses with practiced invisibility. The answer is no, I said, each word harder than the last. Find your own place. Gregory leaned back. His smile grew brittle. Well, we can certainly discuss this later, when emotions aren't running so high. Emotions? As if wanting to keep my own home were irrational. Sarah's face twisted slightly. Maybe we should go home. Home? She meant my house, the one they'd been staying in since their honeymoon, the one where Gregory had already started asking questions about the heating system, property taxes, and neighborhood appreciation rates. I pushed back from the table. My napkin fell to the floor. The other guests blurred in my vision as blood roared in my ears. Arthur Bell, wait! Sarah half rose from her seat, but I was already standing, fishing my wallet from my jacket. 2 $110 bills landed on the table with more force than necessary. Take care of the bill, I managed to say. I need some air. Gregory's voice followed me as I turned away. We'll talk about this later. Arthur Bell, once you've had time to think it over properly. The warmth of the restaurant pressed against my back as I walked toward the exit. Each step carried me away from my daughter's pleading eyes and my son-in-law's calculating smile. The head waiter nodded politely, unaware that my world had just shifted beneath my feet. Outside, the March air stung my face. I fumbled for my car keys, my hands trembling more from anger than cold. The drive home passed in silence. Sarah's worried glances burned through the rearview mirror into my conscience. When I pulled into my driveway, my tie felt like a noose around my neck. Inside, I loosened the silk knot and poured myself 3 fingers of whiskey. My study welcomed me with familiar Shadows leather armchair worn to my shape, bookshelves filled with 40 years of collected wisdom, Margaret's photos smiling from the corner of my desk. I sank into the chair with a grunt. Outside, streetlights painted geometric patterns across my garden. My house. The sheer audacity still stole my breath. $15,000. I'd written that check without hesitation, thrilled to see Sarah's face light up as she described her dream wedding. The Golden Stag as the venue, the string quartet, the elaborate floral arrangements that cost more than some people's cars, all so my daughter could have her perfect day. And now, her husband wanted the house too. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through wedding photos from 2 days ago. Gregory cutting the cake, his hand over Sarah's on the knife. Gregory dancing with my daughter, spinning her until she laughed. Gregory shaking my hand, calling me Dad for the first time. Had he planned this even then? The whiskey burned, but not as much as the memory of Gregory's smile when I'd refused. As if he'd expected resistance. As if this were all part of a larger game. My fingers found the desk drawer and pulled out the leather journal where I kept important thoughts. Margaret had given it to me when I retired from engineering. For all those ideas rattling around in your head, she'd said. March 2025. I carefully wrote the date. Gregory Shaw demanded ownership of the house during the post-wedding dinner. Cited practical concerns. Repeatedly mentioned my age. Sarah uncomfortable but supportive of her husband. The pen felt heavy in my hand. What kind of man does this? 2 days after a wedding I paid for, he wants my home. Doesn't ask to buy it. Doesn't suggest selling and splitting the proceeds. Just expects me to hand it over, as if I'm some confused old fool ready for a nursing home. I set the pen down and walked to the window. The street looked peaceful, porch lights glowing, TVs flickering behind curtains. Normal families living normal lives, unbothered by sons-in-law discussing assets over wedding cake. Back at my desk, I opened my laptop. Bank statements, property deeds, insurance documents, numbers representing a lifetime of careful planning. The house was worth $400,000, maybe more in today's market. My pension and savings would last another 20 years, maybe 30 if I was careful. Gregory somehow knew all this. His questions during the engagement hadn't seemed intrusive then, just a future son-in-law showing interest in family matters. Now they felt like reconnaissance. What's your property tax situation like, Arthur Bell? This neighborhood must have great appreciation rates. Have you thought about what you'll do with all this space eventually? I'd answered honestly proud of my financial stability, eager to show Sarah's fiancé she came from a secure family. Margaret's photo caught the lamplight. Her eyes seemed to watch as I worked. What would she say about this? She'd always been better with people than I was, better at spotting hidden motives. Trust but verify, she used to say. People show you who they are if you're paying attention. I'd been too happy about Sarah's engagement to pay proper attention, too grateful she'd found someone after her divorce 3 years ago, too relieved she seemed settled and content. The journal lay open, waiting for more observations. I picked up the pen again. Gregory Shaw, 38. Claims to be a business consultant. Helps small businesses improve efficiency. Works from home. Travels occasionally to clients. Never mentioned specific companies or demonstrated detailed business knowledge during conversations. The more I wrote, the more questions arose. What exactly did Gregory do for a living? I'd never seen him in a real office building. Never heard him take business calls around the house. His income seemed adequate but not excessive, yet he'd proposed with a 2-carat ring that must have cost $20,000. I closed the journal and reached for my phone. Tomorrow. I'd start asking questions, beginning with a call to Dr. Lawrence Whitmore, my lawyer. He'd handled Margaret's estate, knew my financial situation, understood the value of discretion. Something was very wrong with Gregory Shaw. The grocery bags felt heavier than usual as I pulled into my driveway Thursday afternoon. 2 days of restless sleep since that restaurant confrontation had left me exhausted. Every shadow seemed to hide new threats to my peace of mind. Walter Finch straightened up from his flower bed as I got out of the car. His weathered face wore the expression of a man with urgent news to share. "Arthur Bell," he crossed quickly from his yard to mine. "I need to tell you something important." I set the groceries on the hood of my car. Walter's former police instincts were evident in his serious tone. "What's going on?" "Yesterday afternoon, Gregory brought someone to your house," Walter said, glancing toward my front door, then back at me. "Business-type suit, briefcase, some kind of measuring device." My blood ran cold. "What exactly did they do?" "Walked around the property, took measurements, snapped photos. The guy wrote everything in a notebook." Walter's eyes narrowed. "Looked like a professional appraisal to me. Very thorough work." "How long were they there?" "About an hour, maybe longer." "Gregory had a key, let him inside the house, too." Walter's expression showed he understood the implications. "The guy spent a lot of time in your garden, measured the fence line, took photos of the foundation." My hands clenched into fists. "I thought you knew. I'd have called sooner." "Thank you, Walter. That's very important information." I grabbed the grocery bags with trembling hands. "Very important indeed." Inside, I dropped the bags on the kitchen counter and went straight to my study. The computer took forever to boot up. Every second stretched like an hour as my mind raced through possibilities. Browser history. If Gregory had used my computer, there would be traces. The search history loaded, and my worst fears materialized on the screen. Wednesday afternoon, while I'd been at the hardware store, someone had conducted extensive research. Real estate appraisers, Frankfurt near my suburb, property valuation services, fast house sale companies, cash buyers, residential real estate. Each search term struck like a physical blow. I scrolled down and found more. Legal requirements for property transfer. Hesse power of attorney for real estate transactions, assistance programs for elderly homeowners. My hands shook as I clicked through the visited websites. Professional appraisal services, companies promising quick cash sales, law firms specializing in property transfers for seniors. Gregory Shaw hadn't just brought an appraiser into my home, he'd researched the entire process of how to take it from me. The chair creaked as I leaned back, absorbing the full extent of his deception. This wasn't a spontaneous request made over dinner wine. This was a calculated plan, probably months in the making. I thought back to the engagement period, Gregory's careful questions about my finances, his interest in my daily routines. Had he been evaluating me as a target from the very beginning? My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "Dad, are you feeling better? Gregory says you seemed upset at dinner." "Maybe we can all talk tonight." Talk. Gregory wanted to talk again, probably to present his reasonable offer, backed by professional appraisals and legal research. I stared at the screen, the evidence as clear as daylight. With trembling fingers, I grabbed my phone and dialed Dr. Lawrence Whitmore's number. This went beyond mere desire for my house. This was systematic fraud, and I needed professional help immediately. "Dr. Whitmore's office. This is Carol." My hands shook as I gripped the phone tighter. "Carol, this is Arthur Bell. I need to speak with Dr. Whitmore immediately. It's urgent." "He's with a client, Mr. Bell. Should he call you back?" "Tell him it's about real estate fraud. Tell him my son-in-law, Gregory Shaw, is trying to steal my house." A pause. "I'll get him right away, sir." The wait stretched endlessly. I paced my study. The browser history still glowed on the computer screen, like evidence of a crime already committed. "Arthur." Dr. Whitmore's voice carried immediate concern. "Carol mentioned something about fraud involving your son-in-law. Gregory Shaw?" I ground the name through clenched teeth. "He's planning to take my house, doctor. I have proof he's researched how to do it legally." The silence on Dr. Whitmore's end lasted too long. "Gregory Shaw?" "Yes, he married my daughter 2 days ago. And now—" "Arthur, you need to sit down." Dr. Whitmore's professional tone had shifted to something more urgent. "Give me a moment to check something in my files." I heard keyboard clicks, papers rustling, the familiar sounds of Dr. Whitmore's methodical approach to legal problems, but his tone suggested this wasn't routine. Arthur, I have 3 active cases involving Gregory Shaw. Each word hit like ice water. He specializes in real estate fraud against elderly homeowners. The room spun around me. You're saying he's done this before? His pattern is consistent. Dr. Whitmore's voice turned clinical, as if reading from case files. He marries into families, gains trust, then uses forged documents to claim ownership. The victims are always men in their 60s or 70s, recently widowed, with adult children facing financial difficulties. My free hand found the edge of the desk for support. But he just married my daughter. That's exactly his timeline, Arthur. He works fast before victims can react or seek legal counsel. More paper rustled. How much did you know about his background? Nothing concrete. He claimed to be a business consultant, worked from home. The admission felt pathetic. We were so happy Sarah had found someone after her divorce. Arthur, you're in immediate danger. Dr. Whitmore's urgency cut through my shock. Sign nothing. Give him no access to your financial documents. Let him handle no legal matters for you. What should I do about Sarah? She doesn't know what kind of man she's married. First, we gather evidence. Then we protect your assets. Dr. Whitmore's tone allowed no argument. Your daughter's heart can heal, but her life savings can't be recovered once stolen. I stared at the computer screen, at the evidence of Gregory's research. He brought a real estate appraiser into my house yesterday, used my computer to research the legal process. That's his standard procedure, Dr. Whitmore said, as if reading from a manual. Professional appraisal, forged transfer documents, corrupt notary, to validate signatures. Tell me exactly what you've observed. I described everything, the demand at the restaurant, the appraiser visit, the browser history, Gregory's questions during the engagement. Classic pattern, Dr. Whitmore confirmed. Arthur, I'm clearing my schedule. Can you come to my office first thing tomorrow? Bring every document related to your property title deed, will, insurance policies, bank statements. Should I call the police? Not yet. We need ironclad evidence first. Dr. Whitmore's experience showed in every word. Gregory's sophisticated. He's beaten fraud charges before by claiming victims voluntarily transferred property and later developed memory issues. Memory issues? The implication stung, but I understood the strategy. One more thing, Arthur. Dr. Whitmore's voice carried a warning. Be very careful around him until we meet. If he suspects you know his true nature, he might accelerate his timeline. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the darkened window. My son-in-law wasn't just greedy, he was a professional predator who'd chosen me as his next victim. But I hadn't survived 40 years in engineering by backing down from problems. Tomorrow, Dr. Whitmore and I would begin building the case that would destroy Gregory Shaw's criminal career. As I reached for my safes combination, I heard Gregory's laughter from the kitchen, and for the first time since the restaurant, I smiled. Let him laugh while he can.